Hey everybody, welcome back to Is It a Buy, where we talk about stocks and try to determine if they are worth the buy or maybe a pass. My name is Corey. I'd just like to preface the video by saying I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy who likes to talk about stocks, so please take what I say with a grain of salt, all right? Let's get into the video, guys. Today we have a very special guest. We have Lighthouse on, and we are going to be talking about why the mother of all squeezes won't happen until the options are regulated. Little typo in the title, but no problem. It has been corrected. It's very important that we say the right things in these things. So welcome, Lighthouse.
Yeah, thanks for having me, definitely. And thanks for correcting the typo. I think the best learning of that is guys, don't be careful by posting DD at 4 a.m. after you spend the entire night reading documents and SEC documents, because you might do that. But it was such a big news, and I was just so excited about it.
Right.
That, I was like, yeah. So I thought, should I save it on draft and then post it the morning after? I was like, no, I can't actually. So I
can't wait. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and sometimes, and as you can see, the post really took off, and a lot of people are excited about it. I'm sure people were like, whenever I first saw it, I was like, are not regular, and I clicked it, and then I was like, oh, okay, so that's what's going on. So I thought that was so funny. And then we saw this the other day with AMC and all the 500 million shares. The news sources just kind of giving the misinformation with the that saying that he will issue the 500 shares, or they will issue the 500 million shares, and then they had to do corrections. It was a big mess. So yeah, but no worries, we got that figured out. Let's go ahead and let's get into it. What kind of got you into this, and give me a little backstory here.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So I started to read reports made by governments and agencies and stuff like that, I think 2 or 3 years ago, just because I realized that when journalists were covering these reports or these, memo and stuff like that, they were getting things wrong most of the time. So I was like, okay, let's try to go to the source documents. So I started to do that, for UN reports sometimes, or for even scientific reports. Some of them are definitely out of reach, you can't understand a single word. So just let them this one on the side. But then for lots of them, actually, you understand pretty well most of what the document says. And of course, the more you read about a topic, the more knowledgeable you become, and the more you understand as well. So I started to read all these government written or governmental bodies written documents directly straight from the source, so this is kind of how it started for me, I would say. And then the second part was so back in January, when the small short squeeze happened, and the fact that the FINRA numbers of short interest were decreasing. Lots of people are like, oh, they're probably lying, it can't be true, it's not possible. And so I work in IT, and I kind of have an idea of how a computer works, and I was like, this short interest number described by FINRA, it's probably true in a sense that this number comes from somewhere. It's not FINRA asking hedge funds, hey, can you please tell me what's your short interest rate? How many, how long are you short to compare, not net, and then, we trust you, and then we report that. It's more likely that, they get a number automatically, because the system automated. So this number is incorrect, yes, but this number appears somewhere. So I was interested in investigating, okay, what kind of IT limitation, IT logic they could be using in order to appear as if they cover their short position without actually buying share from the float, because, well, first, there's no share available, because everyone owns 300% of the float, or I don't know how many percent, one, and on top of that, without pushing the price even higher. Basically. So I started to research on that, and what happened is that I found the risk alert written by the SEC. So that's the first link in my DD.
Yeah, we can go ahead.
So I found these documents, I would say, a month ago, and actually I posted it in this subreddit. But I was like, oh guys, this is interesting. I read through it very quickly. I did a summary, but at the time I didn't have any karma, or I didn't have the confidence either to submit DD either. So I just let it go. But yeah, I guess you guys, if you go to my my profile, you can see that I posted this risk alert already, I think a month ago. And then yeah, I kind of let it go. There was other topics that were coming, the price starting to rise again, and this type of things. So yeah, I kind of let this at least on the side. And then what happened is that this week, and over the past few weeks, there was all these DD coming on the failed to delivers, and especially on the anomalies on the option trades, these deep in the money calls and puts. And I was like, oh yeah, this is risk. This is linked with the risk alert of the SEC, so the paper of the SEC. And I was like, okay, I need to put my grain of salt to this, entire subreddit, and because I feel like I can do a DD now because I understand this document rather well.
Right, absolutely, man. All right. And so, yeah. So let's kind of get into, obviously you did all the research. So, man, you've really been in the thick of it. So walk me through exactly, your case here.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So what I did was, because the good thing is that this risk alert written by the SEC in 2013, which is quite funny because it's been 7 years, but I guess I haven't had time to find regulation for it. Anyway, it's often misunderstood, and then I was reading, and I understood really well because I spent hours reading this. So I was reading the comments on the other DDs that were high profile this week, especially on the deep in the money calls, anomalies and stuff like that. And I noticed that lots of people didn't understand actually what was happening, would understand things wrong. So I was like, okay, let me kind of find what are the 5-6 main points that I find people on the comments not really understanding, and break it down as part of the DD, so that at least this practice of hedge funds can be really well understood by everyone in the sub. So yeah, this is how it initially started. And then as I was writing this, the DTC-05 got failed. So I was like, oh fuck, I need to do 2 DDs in one, basically, because it's like there's one paper saying, oh, there's a risk with that, and then the DTC says, oh, we're going to basically start doing that in order to, and we think that it is in order to avoid the risk specifically laid out in the risk alert of the SEC. So both are so connected that I merged them into one DD, basically.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So let's just break down into. So let's go ahead and summarize this risk alert. So let's go ahead and start just at this first part of how the hedge funds manage to make it look like they covered.
Yeah, definitely. So there's different ways that they can make it look like they covered, but there's kind of 2 main ways. The SEC risk alert also talk about flex options, but I didn't really cover that in this one. But basically, it's either a buy right trade. So a buy right trade is when you at the same time sell call and buy a share from the market maker at the same time. And the thing is that the market maker doesn't have to actually own the share or locate the share as part of their hedging function. So they're allowed to do a version of naked selling. So basically what happened is that the hedge funds that do these buy right trades buy a synthetic long. So a synthetic share is basically a share that is long on one side and short on the other side. So in this situation is the hedge fund being long and the market maker being short. So that's one way they can do that. And the reason why they can do that is because all of a sudden in the books, it looks like they made 2 transactions. One is a option trade and one is buying a long share. But it seems that it is not reported that actually this share that just bought is supposed to go with the option trades. It's not reported anywhere. So basically, the hedge funds are just using this synthetic share to close their short position, making it look like they covered, even though they didn't, because synthetic long is not part of the float. So basically, market makers can create as many as we want. They don't need to look at them. They're not part of the float. So even if a stock is hard to borrow or hard to locate, market makers can still do that. And on top of that, because it's not buying from the markets, even if they bought like thousands or millions, it probably won't have an impact on pricing, because again, the synthetic share is not being bought in the market, so it doesn't have an impact on the price of the stock.
I see. Okay, man. Gosh. And is this, do you think that this is where like a lot of these just synthetic shares are coming from, like this method?
So that's a good question. So the risk alerts only talk about how they can use this tactic to look like they cover their short position. But I mean, yeah, excellent question. I was wondering, actually, is it simply how they create synthetic short as well? And I think it could be. I mean, it seems like, I can't believe it's so easy to create synthetic share. Like, I don't know.
Right. Just with the.
We will all expect it was at least a little bit complex, but if it's that easy, that would be very fucked up. But so it's not what my DD says, but it is possible that this is one technique used in order to create synthetic share to sell them short afterwards.
Right. Okay. But at the very least, this is how they make it look like they covered, which I guess is the point. So, okay. And let's go through these married puts. Can you kind of walk us through like a married put? And
yeah. And so there was a few DD that came last week, and some were talking about married puts, some were talking about deep in the money calls. And so I just wanted to make clear that actually these two type of trading activities are basically the same. So that's why I explained what's the difference between selling calls and buying puts. It's almost the same thing. When you sell an option call or when you buy a put, in both situations you have to basically to sell a share to someone else. So the difference is more about in one situation you have to buy this share, and in the other you have the possibility to exercise your option or not. So that's the difference between selling calls and buying puts. But the thing is, in all scenarios, because most of these options are most likely being exercised, it's almost the same. But it's two different techniques that they can use, and this is why, if we want to have a good understanding of how many shares are being reset from FTDs with this technique, we need to count both deep in the money puts and deep in the money calls. And I noticed there was one DD last week that only counted the deep in the money calls.
Okay, man. Gosh, it just keeps on going. That it's so funny how we pull at one thread and just more unravels and more unravels. Like it just doesn't seem to end. It's so crazy. So I guess we can go over let's go over let's just keep on going. Let's see the difference between selling calls and buying puts.
So that's what I just explained. Basically, it's almost the same thing. It's just that in one situation you have the obligation, and the other you have the possibility to exercise your call or not. The next point was why buy a synthetic long at the same time as the option. So in normal situation, this is a very neutral position to hedge. So you buy you buy puts, so you need to sell an option. Well, at the same time you buy the option, so that you actually have the option you need to buy when someone else exercise or may not exercise his puts. Buying both at the same time, it's a neutral or a hedge position, as they call it in the industry. But in this specific scenario situation, because what they're actually buying in synthetic long, and that's the reason for that, is because the share it's hard to borrow because everyone owns all the shares, so there's no more share available from the floats. It allows them to take advantage of delays in reporting and kind of imprecision in the way clearing firms are reporting on these different trades, so that they can use this share for another purpose that what they bought it for. So they can use this share to cover their short position, even though they were able to bought this share as part of an option trade. And this is basically because of delay in reporting between the different IT systems used by all these different stakeholders.
Oh my goodness.
I think there was an excellent kind of DD that came also 2 or 3 weeks ago, explaining that the IT kind of architecture used by the financial markets in lots of countries, but especially in the US, are very outdated. Like, a few days to clear transactions. I mean, in the age where you can basically kind of make data transfer almost immediately, and I mean, so what happened is that the US stock market switched to kind of automated and computer-based trading. I don't know when, probably in the 80s. Around the 80s. I'm not really sure. But what they've built was on top of this legacy system. So they built, fix, and they add new actors, new actors and stakeholders, and on top of this legacy system, that build this super complex machine. But it's not complex because it's not complex because it's like doing lots of things. It's complex because it's old, and it's
right. And it's so funny because in this age of we hear stocks with Uncle Bruce, how he said it would take 15 minutes just to do a transaction back in his day, and now you're on Robinhood or Webull or whatever you're on these days, and these new brokerages, and you're just like trading instantly. You can have multiple trades just so quickly, but their systems are still so outdated. It's like, and this is how so are you saying like this is how like this stuff can happen, because all of their systems are just so old, it's like just can't keep up. And I think they talk about that in the congressional hearings, how like the T+1, T+2 of how long it takes like these contracts to settle. And from my understanding, that was also the issue that Vlad claims was the problem with Robinhood, because Robinhood, they weren't settling fast enough, and they had a bunch of well, he gets into a lot of stuff with that, but so that's it's just so crazy how we've gone full circle. It's like we just need to truly update all of this. Hopefully this whole, I don't know, movement, if you want to call it, will have everyone finally get these things like updated. And I think it's important that the like in these congressional hearings they're talking about this stuff, because I think everyone agrees there's some kind of change that needs to happen. And it looks like with these DTCC rules and all these other rules that are being passed, that they're finally starting to just start to get that in motion. But yeah, let's go ahead and continue.
Yeah, sure, definitely. And just one comment as part of this, so updating the kind of the technology stack used by the financial markets. There's lots more and more proposition to basically use a blockchain-based way of trading assets. Well, because thanks to that, at every moment who owns what, right?
Right.
So there's no delays of clearing firms and stuff like that. So in my opinion, this might be the only way of having a fully transparent kind of financial markets. But it probably won't, if it happens, probably won't be before decades. So let's
Oh boy. Okay. Boy, oh boy. Okay, let's see what do we have next here.
Yeah. So and then another question that came up, and this, I think it's always the question when we read these DD: is it a good news or bad news, the fact that the hedge fund can use this tactic to cover their shorts? Honestly, I don't know. And actually, I think it might be a bad news. The reason for that is, there was this other DD that shows the evolution of the activity of these anomaly options. And the second wave was much lower than the first wave, during the squeeze in January. So it is possible that if this takes lots of time, there might be just, I don't know, 2 or 3% of people paper-hand it, but then maybe will be enough in 12 months to cover their short position, because they just keep kind of buying this stock from the very few amount of people that sell. I don't know. I'm not a specialist, but the thing is, the longer it lasts, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are bleeding more and more. And I think it's always safe to assume the worst. So it's safe to assume that, maybe just waiting for it to happen is not enough, and maybe we need kind of financial regulation to step in and tell them, okay, guys, this is enough. Enough of this.
Right. And those regulations, I assume you're talking about like those filings, the DTCC filings and stuff. Right. And yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think the longer this plays out, it becomes scarier. These guys aren't, the hedge funds, while they're greedy, they're not dumb. I really don't think they're dumb. And so they've been in this game for a long time. They've made billions and billions of dollars, if not trillions. And so they're going to be looking for an out. They're continuing to look for an out. And as long as these filings keep coming out, these guys are going to be forced. Their backs are against the wall, and they're going to be forced to make a drastic move very, very soon. Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah, and I would love to read Didi about how come the DTCC is moving so quickly now. Is because of a change of some changes in the personnel. So they hired more people pushing more for regulation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So this will be very, very interesting. So yeah, I think lots of people say it's because they don't want to be the last one holding the bag of other risk excrements, to quote a Margin Call movie. So it could be this reason, but it could be also because they hired people that are more in favor of regulations. So that would be an interesting investigation, I think.
Yeah. Well, my theory is that they don't want to be holding the bag. That they don't want. It's not like while they may have been, I don't want to say complicit. While they happen right under their noses, Citadel is really the one who should be holding the bag on this. Like, they're the one who went in this direction with those being short higher percentage than the actual float. And I think what the DTCC is doing, and it really solidified that for me whenever I saw what was the new one that came out? I think it was a 3, or was it 4? No, it was 4 over here. I just covered on my stream, and where it said, like, essentially, hey, in the event of some kind of meltdown, like, you're like, this is the order in which things are going to happen. And so they're trying to just let them know, hey, like, and as the more of these rules come out, it's really structuring it so that the hedge funds take the fall, and then whoever else they're going to try to put in front. At the end of the day, if the hedge funds go bankrupt or whatever, the DTCC is going to have to pony up the money.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Absolutely.
I think there might be also a possibility that these are pushed by other hedge funds, because we know that we're not all alone in this. It's if we're backed by the hedge funds more powerful than Citadel, then we have a chance of regulation actually going our ways instead of going against us. Right. But yeah, I think there's a possibility for that as well.
Yeah. And one of the filings I read, it said that the reasons we're enacting this, or one of the reasons, I think it was the first one that had come out. I think it was Rule 3 over here. I think in that one it said, one of the reasons we're enacting this is to prevent any kind of, I forgot the exact verbiage, but it was like any bleed over into other hedge funds, because they don't want other hedge funds to be affected by this whenever it's a very real possibility of what could happen. It's just insane. So where are we here? Are we in the
next step. So
sure.
Another thing I wanted to explain based on the comment I was reading is, okay, so when they do this, the hedge fund, does it mean that now they place this responsibility on the market makers? And well, yes and no. It's not exactly what happens. So who is short when the hedge fund uses this tactic? So basically, as long as the option is not exercised, it's the market maker being short. So what the risk alert says is that most of the time, and this is how you actually can spot these options, they are being written and exercised the same day. And the reason for that is because the market makers don't want to have a short position on hard to borrow stock. So I would say it's the scenario in which the market maker, well, is kind of using a loophole, but doesn't want to kind of help the hedge fund too much covering their high position. So this is what happened when the option exercised the same day. I don't think it's necessarily what's happening with in our situation, because Citadel is both a hedge fund as a market maker. This is brilliant. But so the thing is, so as long as the option is not exercised, the market maker is the one short. When the option is exercised, then the hedge fund is the one short, but it's not short in the traditional sense of the way. It's short on the options. Like, he has to deliver his option, which he most likely won't, because he's not willing to, or because he can't, for lack of share availability. So what might do is to reset again the transaction by doing this again. And this is basically what we've seen with this cycle of FTDs and deep in the money calls.
Man, this keeps on going, keeps giving.
Yeah. And one thing that kind of scared me a little bit in the SEC risk is that so when they do that, they don't have to. It seems they don't have to pay the borrowing fees for shorting shares. Instead, they are most likely paying a small fee to market makers, and they quote that as a way to borrow their hedging function of naked shorting. They can kind of borrow this prerogative against a fee. But yeah, so they're not paying fees for shorting the way FINRA reports it. And also, it seems that they can use this technique independently. Like, it doesn't seem like there's a moment where they can no longer do that in order to maintain failed to deliver position. And this is what I think is concerning with what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into the new rule. File over here.
Yeah, definitely. So the new rule it was submitted yesterday, and this one is it's quite convoluted. So it's a bit hard to understand everything. So I'm sure we're going to have lots of good DDs over the weekend. But basically what this rule is to propose a modification in another document called the Settlement Service Guide, which is a document that I just found, 78 pages, which basically explains the logic of how DTCC reports on transactions and bookkeeping. So yeah, it's probably a very interesting read. And the new ruling is a change of these documents. And we have strong reason to believe that there are three main outputs of these changes. The two first, I didn't want to expand too much on it, just because I just didn't feel that I would do a good job on them. But it seems that they will make it harder, maybe impossible, to borrow some securities more than once. The second aspect is that some securities won't be able to be used as collateral for other trades, for other trades. And then the last one, which is basically a result of the two first, is in the case of options. And basically what will happen is that the DTCC wants to add a new kind of tracking system in order to know whether it's a synthetic long or not. And this is the part where it can get a bit confusing. But can you do you mind opening the
Sure. Is it this one?
Yeah, the form. Yeah. I think this is the most important page if we want to understand how this is going to help detect these weird stock options activities. So this text is basically a text that already exists in the settlement agreements, and the text, the text that you just highlighted is the one that they want to get rid of, and the one in bold and underline is the one they want to replace it with. Yeah, I can't read really well, but can you read the sentence when pledging securities for me?
When
So just above.
pledging, is it this one?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you start just above.
Oh, when pledging. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
when pledging securities to a pledgee, the pledger's position is, and then the crossed out, the pledger's position is moved from the pledger's general free account to the pledgee's account. And I can zoom in a little bit for you here, just to make it easy for everyone to read.
Yeah. Yeah. So this basically exactly this. So let's take an example of a married puts. What will happen is that the hedge fund will buy we buy puts, and at the same time we'll buy a synthetic share, and the synthetic share will be moved from the market maker accounts to the hedge fund accounts, and this is basically what is described when the text is what they're going to remove. Instead of that, from reporting purposes, the synthetic long is still going to stay on the market maker's book. But what they're going to introduce is that on top of this synthetic long, they're going to put a status on it, and it's going to says, "Oh, this share is supposed to go with the put that this hedge fund just bought." So this is what they're introducing. They're introducing an extra layer of reporting for these securities being moved from, being used as part of collateral loans and being moved from accounts to accounts.
Okay, and that'll theoretically help track those shares, right? To prevent additional shares, naked shares, stuff like that.
So the thing is, it will make it obvious that this is a synthetic long share, and that they didn't really purchase the share, so that they can't use this synthetic long to cover their short position.
Okay.
Because there will be a status on top of this synthetic share saying, "Oh, this pledge is being used as part of this transaction."
Okay, I see. And so
with no, go ahead.
Okay, so with this, do you think that'll help, like, the current situation of the systems not being fast enough to move? Like, do you think this will help that that whole system there?
I do not think it'll have an impact on having a shorter, clearing delays and that type of things. I think what it does is adding an extra reporting layer. So we are going to report if a loan, a collateral, is being used for something currently or not, which seemed that it was not the case before. So basically what was happening is that, so the market makers were selling this, selling this synthetic long, but because it was not linked with the married puts, most likely the hedge fund would use this, would sell them or knock it short again, or who knows what, but they were using that to do other trades. Because there was no way to know for the clearing firms that they were supposed to keep this share and to only sell it when they exercise their puts, basically.
Oh boy. All right. Okay, man. So, geez, it's just so crazy. Like, everything that's been happening, it's just a mess that has been messed up for a long time. And thank goodness they're starting to fix it. But what a time for them to do this. Awesome. Anything else that we needed to cover, or you think that's about it?
Yeah, well, obviously, I'm sure lots of people will read this document more thoroughly and have a much better explanation for me, for us, I mean, than me. So I can't wait to read this. The thing now is, so what's the next step with this document? It's not entirely obvious whether the SEC needs to approve it or not. Because if it's just a DCC that changed the way they report on their bookkeeping, then, well, maybe the SEC doesn't have to say anything, because it doesn't change rights or obligations for the market participants. So that would be a very good news for us. So that would be one thing. And then the second thing is, okay, now it's going to be synthetic share are going to be tagged as synthetic by the DTCC. What will happen afterwards? Are they going to enforce the laws that says that, well, you can't naked short unless you're market makers, or these type of things? But I think it's a very good first step to have more precise reporting. Because as long as you don't have precise figures and reporting, then you can't. It makes applying and enforcing the law very hard, right? Because
Right.
Plenty of things can be hidden, it makes investigation very lengthy and these other things. But basically, in a nutshell, I think this is one of the most important feelings that have been made this year. And it really shows that, contrary to our belief, the DTCC and the SEC knows what's happening, and are not just trying. They might not just be trying to find Citadel and tell them not do it again, but they might want to implement systemic changes so that it doesn't happen again in the future.
Right.
So this could mean that, and that would be, I think, what we would all be dreaming of, basically.
Right. Okay. So just wait and see. So I guess to wrap it up. So what do you think is going to be the let's say you're into GameStop, AMC, whatever you're in. What do you think people should do? Should they is it buy and hold per usual?
Yeah, definitely buy and hold. To me, I think we should not trust the regulations or the regulatory bodies, but I think it's unlikely that without them, their help or them interfering with this, that we won't be we will need them, basically. So we need to know that these people, they all, most of the people working for these bodies are former hedge fund employees and stuff like that. So we know who they are, but I think we need to realize that we're going to need their help if we want this to finally settled and the squeeze to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I would say I'd agree. I think they want to cover themselves by implementing these rules to make sure that they're not stuck bag holding. And I think that they have a lot of pressure from retail investors, apes, who are holding and they just know that Citadel's in a bad position. Citadel is going to have to make some kind of move, and the DTCC is I think they're going to force their hand, even if it's not to cover themselves, if it's to satisfy, I doubt it's to satisfy wallstreetbets or whoever it would be. But I think it's going to be so that they're covered and they don't look like fools or something, who aren't regulating or managing their sector,
I also think they're aware that now with the internet, there will always be plenty of people on the internet willing to spend hours and hours digging the figures and digging the data and finding anomalies themselves. As long as we have open data, it's going to be harder and harder for these type of things to happen, because you will always find people on the internet willing to spend the time to investigate.
Yep. I agree. And I guess that's the theme, everybody. I'm gonna kind of go ahead and wrap it up here. I want everyone to see, it is apes who are making these decisions. It's apes who are doing the research, doing and diving deep. And some people are asking me about how do you find the DD? How do you do this DD? And I don't really have all the answers. I rely on other apes, and that's why I've been bringing people on the show to really help explain it to me, so to make sure I understand. And why not have other people join me on my journey? And you don't have to be. I know a Tobit from my last one had a master's degree. We don't all have to have a master's degree. Just do your research and look for something that sticks out. And if you think you found something, share it and see, hey, is this something? And people will say yes or no. Okay, so don't be discouraged. I think it's a collective effort of what we're trying to find, and I think it's a big deal. Okay, but that is what I have for you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. I absolutely appreciate all the support that I've been having. If you did like the content, you want to see more of this, I'm doing my best to bring you the most up-to-date current coverage of AMC, GameStop, the squeeze, all this DD as I can. And so huge shout out to my friend over here by the name of Lighthouse, user Lighthouse over here on Reddit. Be sure you like this post, and be sure to share this, guys. I'm just trying to spread information. I want people to know what's going on. And in my opinion, I think there's an end in sight. I really think there's an end in sight, and it's going to be coming with these rulings. All right. Don't forget to hit that like button, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. Have a great day. Peace.